Once upon a time, in a small, secluded village nestled deep in the woods, there lived a young girl named Sarah. She was a curious and adventurous soul, always eager to explore the surrounding forest and discover its secrets. One day, as she was wandering through the woods, she stumbled upon an old, abandoned mansion. Intrigued, she decided to investigate. As she approached the dilapidated building, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Nevertheless, she pushed open the creaky front door and stepped inside. The mansion was dark and musty, with cobwebs covering every surface and a thick layer of dust on the floor. Sarah could hear the sound of rats scurrying in the walls and the eerie creak of the floorboards beneath her feet. But she pressed on, drawn by the strange pull of the house. As she made her way deeper into the mansion, she began to notice strange symbols etched into the walls and strange markings on the floor. She couldn't understand their meaning, but they filled her with a sense of unease. Suddenly, she heard a loud noise coming from upstairs. Her heart racing, she slowly climbed the stairs, trying to keep her footsteps as quiet as possible. As she reached the top of the stairs, she saw a door slightly ajar, and she could hear faint whispering coming from the other side. Sarah pushed open the door to find a group of hooded figures standing in a circle around a large pentagram etched into the floor. They were chanting in a language she didn't understand, and as she watched, horrified, she saw one of the figures pull out a knife and begin to make a cut on his own arm, letting the blood drip onto the pentagram. The hooded figures turned to her and she saw the eyes of the figure with the knife were black and empty. She realized that they were not human. She tried to run, but the door was now blocked by the hooded figures. They closed in on her, their eyes fixed on her with a sinister hunger. Sarah woke up screaming in her bed. It was just a nightmare. She tried to shake off the feeling of dread that lingered in her mind. But as she looked around her room, she saw the same symbols and markings from her dream etched into the walls and floor. She realized that the dream was not a dream at all, it was a warning. The hooded figures were real and they were coming for her. She tried to run, but it was too late. They were already upon her, their black eyes fixed on her with a sinister hunger. And as they closed in, Sarah realized that she was doomed to spend eternity trapped in the abandoned mansion, forever at the mercy of the hooded figures and their terrifying rituals. Joan and Sam had been married for 5 years and decided to buy their first home together. After months of searching, they found a charming old house that seemed perfect for them. The house was located on the outskirts of a small town and was surrounded by a large garden. It had a wraparound porch and a quaint little swing hanging from a tree in the yard. Joan and Sam fell in love with the house and decided to make an offer. The previous owners were an elderly couple who had lived in the house for over 50 years. They were happy to sell the house to Joan and Sam and wished them well. As the couple moved in, they began to notice strange things happening around the house. Doors would creak open by themselves, footsteps could be heard in the hallway at night, and objects would mysteriously move from one place to another. Joan tried to brush off these strange occurrences, but Sam couldn't ignore them. He began to research the history of the house and discovered that it had been built in the 1800s. It had been owned by several families over the years, but the last family to live there had all died in a tragic fire that had consumed the entire house. Sam couldn't shake the feeling that something was still lingering in the house, something that was not at rest. One night, while the couple was sleeping, Joan was awakened by the sound of the front door creaking open. She nudged Sam awake, and they both listened in silence as footsteps made their way down the hallway towards their bedroom. The footsteps stopped outside their door, and the handle began to turn slowly. Sam jumped out of bed and flung the door open, but no one was there. The couple began to feel like they were being watched, and they could hear strange whispers coming from the walls. They decided to call in a paranormal investigator, who confirmed their worst fears. The house was indeed haunted by the spirits of the family that had died in the fire. The investigator recommended that they perform a spiritual cleansing of the house, which Joan and Sam agreed to. During the cleansing, the investigator instructed the couple to sit in a circle in the center of the living room and hold hands. He lit candles and incense, and began to recite a prayer. Suddenly, the candles flickered wildly, and the room grew cold. The couple heard strange chanting and screaming coming from the walls, and they felt as though they were being suffocated. Just when they thought they couldn't take it anymore, the chanting stopped, and the room grew quiet. The candles flickered out, and the room was plunged into darkness. Joan and Sam sat in silence, waiting for something to happen, but nothing did. They eventually got up and turned on the lights, only to find that the investigator had disappeared. The couple was left alone in the house, and they decided to leave as soon as possible. As they were packing their bags, they heard a knock at the door. When Sam opened it, he found a letter addressed to him. It read,
"Dear Sam and Joan, I hope the spiritual cleansing helped. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish the job, and I had to leave abruptly. There is a reason why the spirits are still here, and I believe it has to do with the fact that you are living in the house. You see, the spirits have chosen you to be their new family, and they will never let you leave. I'm sorry, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you this in person. I hope you can forgive me. Sincerely, the paranormal investigator."
Joan and Sam never returned to the house, and they moved far away from the small town. They couldn't shake the feeling of being watched and followed even after they left the house. Every time they heard a creak in the floor or a strange noise, they were reminded of their terrifying experience in the haunted house. As time passed, they tried to move on with their lives, but the memory of the house and the letter haunted them. They eventually decided to seek the help of a psychic medium to try and rid themselves of the spirit's presence. The medium performed a ritual to cleanse them of the spirit's hold, and the couple thought they were finally free. However, as they were driving home from the medium's house, their car suddenly swerved off the road and crashed into a tree. Joan was killed instantly, and Sam was left with severe injuries. In the hospital, Sam heard whispers in the night and footsteps in the hall, just like in the old house. As he lay in his hospital bed, Sam realized that the spirits had not let them go after all. They had followed him and Joan, and they had caused the accident. The spirits had chosen them as their new family, and they would never be free. Sam spent the rest of his life haunted by the spirits of the old house, never able to escape their grasp. His life had become a never-ending nightmare, and he could never forget the terrifying events that had led him there. In the end, he knew that he would never be at peace until he joined the spirits in the afterlife. Maria had always been fascinated by old houses, so when she saw the quaint and charming house for sale, she knew she had to have it. Despite the warnings of her friends and family, who told her the house had a dark history, Maria was determined to make it her own. The house was beautiful, with tall ceilings, wide windows, and intricate woodwork. However, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. She often heard strange noises in the middle of the night, and her belongings seemed to move on their own. Maria dismissed her fears, believing that it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. But as time went on, the strange occurrences became more frequent and more alarming. One night, Maria woke up to find her bedroom door slowly creaking open, despite the fact that she had locked it before going to sleep. The air in the room suddenly turned icy cold, and Maria could see her breath in front of her. She heard a low whispering sound that seemed to be coming from the corner of the room. Maria tried to scream, but her voice caught in her throat as she saw a pair of glowing red eyes staring at her from the shadows. Maria ran out of the house that very night, too scared to spend another minute there. She sought refuge with her family, who tried to comfort her, telling her that it was just her imagination. But Maria knew what she had seen, and she refused to go back to that house. She sold it to a young couple, who were thrilled to own such a beautiful property. Maria warned them of the strange happenings, but they dismissed her concerns, eager to make the house their own. Weeks passed, and Maria tried to forget about the house and the terrifying experience she had there. But one night, she received a frantic phone call from the new owners of the house. They told her that they too had experienced strange occurrences and begged Maria to come over and help them. Maria reluctantly agreed, still haunted by her own experience. When she arrived at the house, she found the couple huddled in the living room, looking terrified. They told her that they had heard strange noises and felt a cold, eerie presence in the house. Maria tried to reassure them, but as she was leaving, she noticed something strange on the wall. It was a message written in blood, and it read, "You can't escape me." Suddenly, the lights went out, and the couple screamed in terror. Maria realized too late that she had made a grave mistake by returning to the house. She heard the same low whispering sound she had heard before, and the glowing red eyes appeared once again. This time, however, they were coming for her. The last thing Maria saw was the evil spirit that had been haunting the house all along. As it lunged towards her, its mouth twisted into a demonic grin. The new owners of the house never saw Maria again, and they too disappeared without a trace shortly after. The old house remained abandoned, a grim reminder of the horrors that lurked within its walls, and the ghost of Maria continued to roam the halls, warning others to stay far away from the cursed property.